Hello and welcome to Never Is Funny, the show where I, Patrick O'Connell, talk to funny people and hope to God they talk back. We're now, with this series, moving specifically into the realm of Edinburgh Fringe comedians, and what a way to kick this off, but with Lil Wenker, which is a fantastic name. She's a clown. She's got her new show, BANGTAIL, where she plays a cowboy gone accountant. She's doing previews right now for that show, and then it's coming to the Edinburgh Fringe. But you know what? Honk honk, that's enough clowning around. Let's get right into it. Welcome back to the show, where I talk to comedians in the know. That's right. It's Never As Funny. It's Never As Funny. The show's it's called Never As Funny. It's the name of the show, by the way. Never As Funny. It's the gist of it, the name. The show's called Never. This is like the title music. It's called Never As Funny. All right. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to Never As Funny. And I'm gonna begin with a little story. So, a depressed woman, she went to her doctor and she said, "Doctor, I'm feeling really depressed. I'm looking for something to cheer me up. I don't really know what to do." And the doctor said, "Well, the great clown, Lil Wenker, is appearing on the podcast Never As Funny soon. You should go get that a listen." And the woman says, "But doctor, I am the great clown, Lil Wenker."
Oh my God. It's just like every time I go to my therapist and she's like, "What do you do for a living?" And I'm like, "I'm a comedian." And she's like, "Then why are you so unhappy all the time?"
Oh my God.
No, she's lovely and I'm not unhappy. So it's just banter with me and Sophie. Shout out to Sophie.
Yeah. Shout out to Sophie. That's good. I'm glad. I assumed you got that because you are a clown, but I was on call with my friend last night talking about recording today. And I said, "Oh, I got this great idea for a joke." And I did it, and he just kind of was completely silent, and he was like, "What was that?" And he was like, "I don't know if you should do that, man. I don't know if anyone knows what that is." I was like, "She will, I'm sure. She must do."
I'm glad that I showed up for you in this way that you needed, because I got it, and I appreciate it.
That's perfect. I was bargaining on it would be funny either way, because if you did go, "Dude, what the hell are you talking about?" That would have been pretty good.
This existing clown, though, when you do something and it's really, really shit, it's called the flop. And that's actually really good for clowning. So you're natural. You're doing great.
That's brilliant. I should look into that as an avenue of comedy. But yeah, so you gave me a couple different things in terms of quirky facts. So you went with, you've worked on not one but 2 dairy farms in your life.
Yeah.
You used to be a competitive rock climber as a child, and you were born on Christmas Day.
These are all true.
Which are all great facts. I think the dairy farm one intrigues me. Competitive rock climber as well, though, especially as a child. I wasn't aware there were children's competitive rock climbing.
Yeah, it's a funny, very, 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 as you can imagine, niche kind of sport.
Right.
But it's very fun. And you go on a bus and you travel around and you compete against other rock climbing kids. It's a very funny kind of thing, though, because I think a lot of competitive sports, I'm from Minnesota, so people play hockey a lot. And that's kind of
right.
or dance, I guess, is a really toxic environment. But here everyone's just super hippy dippy. Everyone is named Leaf or Forest or it is actually super chill. And everyone is just "Oh yeah, dude, I was trying to send this, but then I got some beta." Everyone is just so chill. So it's actually a really funny, quote unquote, competitive thing to be involved in, because everyone is just as if they've smoked a ton of weed all the time. It just is the chillest environment ever.
That is brilliant. I mean, I'm so pleased. I've seen, jokes online about there being a big crossover between I don't know, stoners, non-binary people and rock climbers.
Yeah.
So it's fantastic for me to hear that that's true.
It's 100% true. It's everyone just eating homemade fruit leather and smoking. It is funny. I think rock climbing is interesting because this is my hot take of the day. I don't know. But it lets all these really kind of just dorky, lanky guys actually be so jacked and so good at something.
That's very interesting.
And they can just be super funny little introverted guys who are just amazing at rock climbing. So it's this really funny, paradoxical new world that you step into where it's kind of like clowning where all the losers have the power. It's amazing.
Or, I mean, you could argue that with comedy in general, really, I think.
Literally, yeah.
I find that really interesting about, like, lanky, nerdy guys being able to have a physical. I mean, maybe the way to kind of combat the sort of incel teenage epidemic is to give them all some chalk and gloves and just set them to work.
Yeah, I think that's almost like sex. I think that's really perfect. I think it's honestly, that's right on the cusp, I would say.
That's brilliant. That's a little plug for rock climbing.
Yeah, shout out to rock climbing.
Is it something you still do now?
Not really. I'll go occasionally with friends as a social thing, but it's this funny thing where I stopped competitive rock climbing because I had a theater company.
Right.
Back when I was in high school, which was taking up so much of my time. And then it's this funny thing of like, I used to be so good at it. And now because of my ego, I'm not nearly as good as I used to be. And so there is something kind of like, also, I think part of just growing up and being an adult is realizing that things that you did as a literal child are suddenly so much harder, and it feels like it should be the opposite. Like I became an adult, so I should be able to do things more. But my ego stops me. I'm like, being an adult is just getting like 1,000 little creams to rub on my body because I have like a little bit of eczema here or like a little bit of something. I'm like, this is not as glamorous as I thought. So my ego makes it harder, but when I'm with friends, it's nice.
Yeah, that's very true. I think for me, that's reading, which is less exciting of a pursuit.
Yeah.
I used to like constantly walk around reading as a kid. And now, sorry, there's someone. Sorry, someone washing the window outside. I don't know is that coming through at all?
Like a tiny, tiny bit, but it's so exciting.
It really scared the shit out of me. Feel genuinely, I feel like I've some prehistoric instinct has been activated, and I saw like a saber tooth. But yeah, I was gonna ask, like, do you think the physicality of that led it? Because you are a clown, professionally, not as an insult. Do you think physical pursuits like that, did that lead into doing quite physical performance? Is that kind of always been a core to what you do?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think as a person, I have a lot of energy. It's one of the things that makes me so insufferable to date. I was just joking with somebody, like, I think back to like my first boyfriend ever, and I was like, we have to get up because it's 7 a.m. and the day has started. And he was like, what if we slept a little bit later than that? But I just am a naturally energized person. Like I just, yes. I have a lot of energy and I need to get it out somehow. And honestly, what was so nice about rock climbing, other than it's just fun and I got to be on this team that I really liked, was it just helped me so much, like deal with this energy and deal with this kind of stress or any emotion. Like I felt I could just get it out when I was at practice. And I think kind of similarly with physical comedy stuff, it lets me kind of channel this energy into something. And I think something I really struggled with when I was a very serious actor back in the day is how much you don't always actually use your body like that. The emphasis, I mean, it depends on obviously on the role, but it's the emphasis on the words and the emphasis is on the story. And I just had a tendency to move so much. And I think that physical comedy training has helped me kind of channel that into something that's been really fun. Or like last year at Fringe, I did this Buffon ballet show that was so physical, so physical. But it was so fun for me because I felt like afterwards I would just be like exhausted, but in such a great way because I really felt like it was just so dynamic and really matched kind of the energy that I feel, especially on stage where that gives you such an additional boost to what I usually feel.
Yes,
it was like, really gratifying.
That is great. What is Buffon ballet?
So it's not a genre. It's just Buffon is like a kind of comedy that has its roots in satire. Okay. So usually you're kind of dressing up as, well, as Philippe would say, the man I studied clowning with, you're dressing up as the bastards to make fun of them. So like at clown school, I would do a lot of dressing up as like right-wing Americans, Donald Trump supporter kind of thing. And you're kind of parodying them or embodying them physically in order to mock them. Yeah. And I paired that with dance, basically. So I did this show with my dear, dear friend David called Crap Ballet. So we're these kind of like gross capitalist Wall Street business guys. But then the show was also like mostly told through these really theatrical dance numbers.
Right.
So super, super stupid, but really, really physical because I had this huge suit on and a bald cap, and I was dressed as this like big Wall Street kind of CEO guy, but doing all these very complex like dance numbers, and we had a tango and we had a ballet and we had all these things.
Right. Wow.
So yeah, that's not a genre necessarily in and of itself. It's just two things that we put together to make a show.
What is it like doing that in like I assume it's quite like a heavy costume. I don't know, but like
so hard.
Right.
So, I mean, it's one of those things where like I, take care to get enough rest and eat enough and whatever. But afterwards, last year at Fringe, I was every single show. We were just absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
We would go and just eat so many jacket potatoes because we were like, I have not sweat so much. And I thought I got away from it because the cowboy costume for BANGTAIL it's like sleek, and I'm not carrying any sort of heavy thing around. But just on Tuesday, I did this gig for kids and I did it outside in the sunshine, and it's a full black leather costume.
Oh, God.
So I sweat so much, and I was like, God damn, well, I can't just wear like jeans and a t-shirt. What about shorts,
Yeah.
But yes, it was a very, very intense show last year that definitely required like quite a bit of intention about how I move in the rest of the day. Because, you're going out flyering and then you do the show and you hang out and you dance and whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, I need to think about this because it's not super sustainable to do that. Like, I think doing that show for 2 weeks was kind of the maximum. Like the month would have been honestly like quite a lot.
Oh, definitely. Oh, right. So were you flyering in costume as well?
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy.
Yes. So that suit and I were one by the end of the festival. It's a miracle I didn't have to burn it afterwards.
That's incredible. Yeah, I got really lucky. I've done one Fringe run so far.
Mm-hmm.
We were a sketch troupe, so we didn't really have costumes. We all wore Hawaiian shirts, which handily turned out to be like a perfect thing for the weather.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this character you mentioned with the bald cap and the soup, is that, I think I have in the notes somewhere, Mike. Is that the character Mike?
So it started out as this character called, the genesis of it was actually during the Buffon module at Golier.
Oh, right. Okay.
Where I found this big suit and I really liked playing men on stage. I feel far more kind of embodied in that. And so I really liked also all the people that I was kind of wanting to critique just happened to be men for a few reasons. I'm not sure.
I wonder why.
If I can pinpoint exactly why. But I was I was always falling into these male roles. So I was doing like Southern farmer guy with a pair of overalls. And then it kind of transitioned. And then for the final, what we called auto course, so the final performance, basically every Friday we would have kind of a showing.
Okay.
I really wanted to do something that I really physically transformed, which is where I put the bald cap on and really changed the stature of my body. And so that kind of was the first rendition of it. And then when I was back in uni for my senior year, there's this absolutely amazing dive bar right across the street from my apartment called Three Sheets.
Okay.
And they have this super, super tiny stage in the corner of their bar. They're super amazing there. And they would always indulge me and let me host whatever kind of events I wanted to comedy wise. Right. And so I started hosting this show called Magic Mike, where I would dress up as the kind of politician-y guy and host basically just an open mic where people from the city, New Haven could come, or college students or whatever. Right. So that's where Mike became someone. And then I was kind of playing around with this character. I really liked the physicality of it. I really liked how much I felt like I could kind of disappear a little bit and become someone different. Right. But then it became an actual character when we made the show Crap Ballet. And the show is based on this real guy called Justin Silver, who basically David and I had gotten into this startup business program. And it was led by this guy, Justin Silver, who is this
Right.
he went to the best business school in the US. The very first day he gives this amazing presentation where he starts and he literally, and this is how the show opens. We used to, I was writing down furiously the entire time because I was
Yeah.
like, this is it. This is it. He starts, he's like, my name is Justin Silver. I'm a businessman. I'm an amateur pizza connoisseur. I'm a retired university hockey player. And then he does his whole presentation and starts to draw on the whiteboard and the marker doesn't work. And it's just like a clown act.
brilliant.
It was so great. And he is so lovely. He is the best guy ever. So basically I was like, hey, I have this kind of character I've been working on. Can we kind of now shape it around you and then shape the show around you? And he was super down for it. Came to the show and it was in New York, which was super sweet of him. Brought his fiance.
Right. Oh.
Yeah, so that's kind of how that character became something. But it's funny to think of the Genesis actually was at Goliath and kind of it took different forms until it really found okay, no, it is
right.
the embodiment of this guy that is real.
Even the name Justin Silver is kind of
so
perfect.
Good. You can't write it. It's literally, it's so good.
But yeah, so I noticed when I was just digging around on the sort of online content you had available, you've done a few things like skits in character as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is that because most of what you do, it seems now, is really lent directly into the clowning stuff and physical performance and things? When you were doing those skits, the short things, were you kind of talking as him?
Mm-hmm.
Was that just kind of something you did to produce extra stuff? Or is that did you consider, this is an actual avenue I want to explore?
Yeah, I mean, I think my heart is so in live shows.
Yeah.
I think that most of the video stuff we've done, except for there's been a few short films or we did a web series.
Yes.
Which I really enjoyed. And it was very difficult for me because I'm not a screen actor. I've never done any screen acting.
Right.
So it's all super, super new to me. It's something I'm interested in, but it just is so not my kind of natural skill set. But I do know for myself, my heart is so live. And I think that, clowning is just so predicated on what the audience is desiring in a moment and being
Right.
able to connect with them and go with that impulse that, yeah, I think that right now, at least, I'm so focused on being in person and doing stuff. So those videos were super fun. And also there's something really fun to me about that form of short clip. Basically how we did a lot of those short clips is David, the other person who was in the show with me, would ask me tons and tons of questions. And basically we just improvised for a while. And then we took what we had and cut it into videos to promo for the show. And that's a lot more compelling to me because there is something really fun about you still maintain that kind of live aspect or the improvised aspect.
Yes.
And it's funny because my comedy stuff started with sketch, actually. So I started very regimented. My first year at uni, I auditioned for this sketch group, not having done comedy ever.
Yes.
So my background in it is extremely scripted and extremely regimented. And even before that, I come from an acting background where you stick exactly to the words.
Right, yeah.
So improvising was super new and still I feel is really scary to me.
Yes.
Even though I do it all the time. My show is so much improvised. If you see BANGTAIL, it's there's huge sections that are completely predicated on.
Right. Wow, okay.
Something new. But yeah, so it's a new avenue for me, but I really have grown more and more to that spontaneity so much more than thinking of a really great joke in the writing room and then bringing it to stage.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of BANGTAIL, this is your new, well, I say new, I don't know how long has it been workshopped?
Yeah, so I messaged Cecily, who I met at Fringe. I saw her show Troll. Shout out Troll. Yeah, it's this amazing, these two Norwegian clowns, and Cecily directed the show. And it's super lovely, super funny, very, very physical. So I was naturally quite drawn to it.
Yes.
So basically we met at Fringe and then started working together when I moved to London in September. And so we started rehearsals October, November, and it was pretty loose. I mean, just a lot of mostly conversations about what the show could be. And
Right.
quite
Yeah.
a few hour sessions in a studio in Theater Delhi, walking around like a cowboy. And it's funny, I was just saying this to somebody, but Cecily and I didn't know each other. We weren't friends before we started working together. We kind of
Right.
started as colleagues and then have now become great friends. And that's so it's funny to think back to our first rehearsals where she was asking me even like, oh, I don't trying to be respectful. I don't know what your, experiences with improv. How would you feel about walking around the space
Yeah.
like a cowboy? Whatever, doing all of these just really basic exercises so we could start just kind of exploring. And then the first work in progress happened in December, right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's a completely different show since then, as these things tend to be. But basically, yeah, we had some of these kind of early rehearsals, did work to kind of assemble a work in progress, knowing tons of it's going to change, but we just need to do an hour. Also, for myself, I've never done an hour on stage by myself.
Right.
So just this big, like, okay, let's just try it and see.
Especially when a lot of that is improv as well. I imagine, like,
Yeah.
doing an hour of any kind of solo performance is tough. But yeah, that's incredibly impressive, really. I mean, how much of that would you say is improvised or different every time?
For the first work in progress, actually very little of it, I would say, was improvised.
Right.
And it's something that's changed about the show is the more comfortable I've gotten with the show, actually, the more is improvised. So I would say like 30 to 40% is improvised, or at least heavily based on kind of the reactions in the audience. I mean, it's funny, the hour-long script is like 6 pages long because it's just, okay, here's a little bit that I say, and then these are bullet points of what I do for as long as it's funny, and then I move on to the next game, as we would call it. And then since the first work in progress, then we have done it just at a lot of different places. We did Leicester Comedy Festival and Pinch of Vaults. I did like a work in progress tour in the States.
Right.
Previews. So yeah, since then, it's really just like, okay, I had 2 shows at the Brighton Fringe, and we heavily changed parts of it from the first show to the second show.
Right.
Just sitting in a diner, eating pancakes, scrapping whole pages of it, changing stuff around. So it's really been, I mean, just speaking of improv, there's a lot of, even if it's like a set thing, quote unquote, there's a lot of, I don't exactly know what we're doing because we literally wrote this morning. So yeah, for me, it's been super helpful as a performer to just trust myself that I do not know what is going to happen. And that
definitely
is an hour is going to happen. And then let's just see what comes of it. And it probably will be shit. And that's okay.
All of the different types of comedy I've done, that's something I've had to, it might be shit and that's okay. Is it consistent theme? I'm curious about, you said you took it to the US as well. Was there much difference in like how the audience responded, or like what bits landed more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole reason I am in London in the UK is it's just culturally quite different from my experience about just even people's kind of awareness of alternative comedy clowning.
Right.
I think that it exists, like this greater awareness and hunger for this kind of thing so much more than in the US.
Right.
I think the US is really amazing for stand-up, and improv and sketch are, still a bit more on the fringes, but people love especially like very wordy comedy and very witty comedy. So kind of like heavily clown, heavily physical things are just a little bit less common.
Right.
I mean, you look at stuff like SNL, which is one of the most famous comedy shows for ages, and everything is scripted.
Yes.
So I think there's just a different kind of awareness about it. So I think because of that, but also kind of a little bit more innocence and excitement. So it might take an audience a little bit more to win over, especially in a bit more reserved of a place like Minnesota, for example.
Right.
New York is rowdier, younger audience, but Minnesota's a little bit more reserved, a little bit more ready to sit and watch something instead of interact with it.
Right. Yes.
But I think the payoff sometimes can be actually quite a bit higher because people maybe have never seen clowning before in their lives.
Right.
They've never been asked to interact with a piece of comedy before, a piece of theater before in their lives. And I think that this is something, at least I definitely have kind of, because I've lived here now and become more sensitive, or just become more, I guess, accustomed to this kind of comedy, I become less amazed by interaction and that sort of thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think that it's like a bit harder to win people over, but then the payoff is a little bit more innocent in a sweet way. People are a little bit more charmed sometimes.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that is interesting. Yeah, because thinking about it, obviously the Edinburgh Fringe itself, but I think it seems to be a bit more of a common thing here.
Yeah.
At least within the type of people who go and watch comedy. I mean, even stuff like, obviously they're semi-scripted, but the feel of them is very improvised. Things like panel shows are such a big British thing.
Yeah.
You don't really, as far as I know, you don't really get that type of thing so much in the US, at least not on like mainstream.
Yeah, not so much.
But yeah, that is very interesting. I think we're heading towards where the middle section makes sense to be. Yes, so the song to play. Yes, that's it. Okay, so the song for the middle section, which I don't remember if I mentioned in the emails. I probably didn't because I always forget. But when I get to these, because of like copyright things, I can't really just play the full song.
Okay.
So what I do is I find the lyrics myself and I get some kind of stock music that's kind of interesting, and then I just like have a crack at performing it in some obscure way.
Oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, so which every time feels like a slight letdown because the guest is like, oh, I brought this song, I'm really passionate about it. It's by this generational artist. And I have to go, yeah, okay. But this time it's going to be by me.
Yep, butcher it. It's absolutely done.
What is it's also okay if you don't remember, what is the song that you would like me to go with? I have it here, so I can prompt you.
I don't remember.
It's Thunder Road by Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, great choice, Paslo. I love, here's the thing. Bruce Springsteen is like, part of what I think is so fun about the show, BANGTAIL, is that I can just lean so much into the most obvious and cliche tropes of masculinity, but like, because there is truth to it. Like the Bruce Springsteen documentary, these videos of these grown men crying at him performing. Yes. Like there just is this funny cultural obsession with him, especially for like older white men. And I just love it. Like I think it's awesome. I saw The Bike Riders the other day, the new movie with Jodie Comer.
Bike Riders.
It's like this new movie about motorcycles from people in the Midwest.
Okay.
And there's something, it's like, is it actually that good? Or is it just amazing at fulfilling such a feeling of an archetype? And I think actually, what is the difference there? I think there's something so funny and so like charming about something that is just absolutely like taking itself seriously. I think it's great.
That's really good. So that's a fantastic piece of atmospheric context for the actual song. See how well it fits with my delivery. But
I can't wait.
But yeah, here comes Thunder Road.
Oh my God.
And yeah, we'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome to the middle section of the show. My time to shine. Now, I'm feeling slightly insecure about the fact that Lil's a clown, that's something I haven't done. And I need to prove that that's within my wheelhouse too, because there's nothing I can't do. I'm the first Jack to master all the trades, motherfucker. And so here comes my greatest lyric performance yet. A silent, choreographed clown performance of Bruce Springsteen's Thunder Road. It is a sight to see. And here it is. Okay. Ow, fuck. Jesus. Thank you for watching or listening or whatever the fuck. Sorry, it's a strenuous performance. But guess what? Yeah, I did it, Lil, but you didn't expect that, huh? Ooh, I'm Lil Wenker. I'm a professional clown, and I went to clown school, and I'm funny, and everybody thinks I'm great, and everybody thinks you can't do clowning because you're just a podcaster. Well, guess what? I proved you wrong. I'm just as good as you. I'm just as funny. I can do clowning, and I have injured myself. I've somehow, one of my feet has twisted round the wrong way. But that's fine. I can handle that, because when you're a clown, like me, like I am, like I've just proved myself to be, and you're out there on the fucking stage, and you're honking noses, and the fucking circus lights are bright as hell, shit goes down, okay? And you know what? It's good. It's fine. It actually works out okay, because I can buy one shoe for my right foot brand new, and then I buy a second right foot shoe second hand, and I put it on my backwards left foot, and I save on shoe prices, and I really need to go to the fucking hospital. I'm still getting used to saying that, to be honest, because it feels very weird being like, and we're back, even though like nothing's happened for us, but
the magic of the podcast.
Exactly, yeah. I'm like Willy Wonka. All right, we are back. So I want to ask you a little bit more about BANGTAIL, but first, I suddenly remembered it in between the calls. I told my girlfriend, this is way back when we first tried to record this, told her that I was going to be interviewing a clown, and she said I should ask you if you have an egg. So do you have an egg?
This is funny, because in the break, my friend just texted me, I have an egg in my mouth. I don't currently have an egg. I have 3 downstairs that I was thinking about eating for lunch, but no, I don't have an egg. It's a clown.
Yes. So I only vaguely know about this. I don't know if you know more about, if you can explain what they are and how you get. I know this. What I think I know is that there's a big warehouse in France where clowns have like Fabergé eggs, but I don't know if that's exactly how it works.
Oh, I don't know about this at all. Maybe I need to read up on my clown egg history, but no, I don't know what this is.
Oh, I see. Oh, that question must have been really bizarre then.
No, she's just better than me. This is why I'm sure she's perfect, and you should marry her. I don't know anything.
I mean, you answered that. The question of do you have an egg with utter. I assumed. Okay, I'm gonna real quick Google clown egg. This is.
Yeah. I'm curious now.
Is the clown egg registry real? How many clown eggs are there?
This is amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Apparently, the Clowns International Egg Registry, Clowns International, has been painting faces of their professional clowns on eggs for 70 years. Apparently.
What?
BBC article, The Fascinating Reason Why Clowns Paint Their Faces on Eggs.
This is great. I'm getting educated.
Yeah, me too. Okay, well, yeah, that's about as much as I know, but in which case you should definitely chase that up. I think it would be an excellent piece of branding if you could advertise your very own International Clown Registry egg.
Yeah, this is great. This is my new goal. Forget Fringe. I want to find this egg.
I'm still
I want this egg.
I'm still very floored by you took me asking, do you have an egg? It just fully as if it was a normal question. That's great.
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, well, I guess maybe your girlfriend just wants to add something quirky to see what I'll say. And I guess, yeah.
You know what? That wouldn't be entirely out of character for her.
Yeah, perfect.
I also feel slightly bad because I came back from the break and I was like, all right, we'll get back to your actual show, but it's time for a 5-minute diversion on clown eggs, and then the call cut off.
That's great.
Yes.
Quite clowny already, so.
That's true. I may have an instinct for it.
I think you do.
But what I was trying to ask you before I was shut off was, so like the production side of it, I'd like to get back more into, because that's something I find interesting. It's something I basically know nothing about when it comes to that side of comedy. But in general, with your show BANGTAIL, how would you, if you were pitching it or even just, describing it, flyering, like handing it out to someone, what's the basic like thesis of the show?
Oh my God, I just did there's this course at Soho called the Edinburgh Labs, where you do like 8 weeks of basically just prep. And Lee, the comedy programmer, and also the guy who runs the workshop, was like, every week you have to pitch your show. So we've done this so many times.
Oh, right.
Which is great. But it means that I'm prepared.
Like a final exam.
It is. But, here we are. I hope I can get a good grade. Yes, I mean, it's a clown Western about a cowboy who becomes an accountant. Yeah, it's like very, very heavily inspired by old spaghetti Westerns and the Marx Brothers, Buster Keaton, a lot of those kind of very classic physical comedy guys.
Right.
And it's also based on, very, very loosely, my dad, Alan, who is an accountant himself. And we used to watch Westerns together quite a bit, which is how I was introduced to the genre.
Right, yes.
So it's an hour of very, very stupid, silly, quite rowdy physical comedy, kind of set in this Western American office space as well.
Oh, great. I didn't realize that was a part of it, the Office Space stuff.
Yes, yeah. So he's a cowboy, and then he actually becomes an accountant, because the whole genesis of what I thought was funny was my dad is an accountant. That's his job.
Yeah.
And I was thinking how funny it would be to have a cowboy doing a 9-to-5 job in an office. And the show is not that, but that's kind of where the idea first came, was thinking of that kind of like lawless man going to the vending machine for his 15-minute lunch break. I just think that's so funny and so sad. So that's where the idea kind of came.
That's great. I mean, you have a fantastic costume for it.
Thank you.
Looking at the various promo pieces, I think the most recent one I saw, you have like this big fat cigar dangling out of your mouth. Yeah. And you've got the big hat. I mean, it's interesting you say, like, you grew up on Westerns and stuff. I mean, what sort of type of Western is filtering into this? Is it the, like, early, like, I don't know, the good guys in the white outfits fighting on trains, or is this more like Clint Eastwood-esque? Like, what type of cowboy is this?
Deeply the Clint Eastwood kind of dripping sex character of just the everyman, the hero. I think it's funny because to me, this is so not a sexy character. Right. Even though I treat it really sexy. I mean, because I think that this guy has to take himself really seriously, and has to, even like in the promo pictures and stuff, they're so serious, which I think is part of what makes them really funny, is it's like, I, as a cis woman, little girl, am dressing as this guy, taking it so seriously. But it's so funny because people are like, wow, this is such a horny show, or this is such a sexy show, which is so funny to me because I just can't picture that. But of course, I'm on stage and the people in the audience see this little guy in whatever way they see him. But yeah, I really like this. I mean, also, so the first Western I ever watched was The Good, the Bad, the Ugly.
Yes.
And it just plays so well with the archetypes, where you literally have the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, you have three really inhabitable characters and really inhabitable physicalities and genres of men. So when we were first starting to make it and watching Westerns, this was also the first one that we watched, just because we have the good guys, we have the bad guys. This is, I think, why the genre is so fun for me to play. Is it just, things are so easy to step into. And once I feel like I have the physicality and the understanding of kind of a character, then all of the games and all of the play and the motivation and stuff just so easily falls into place.
Right. Yeah. That's like you were saying about archetypes and things. Mm-hmm. So when you like crafting this character, how much do you think about, like, do you just kind of take, he's a gritty, unself-aware cowboy, and then improvise from there? Or do you think, are you creating like lore backstory in terms of, his ranch was burnt down and now this is why he's acting like how much is behind the character?
Oh, this is a great question. It's funny because I think that for me, the kind of really specific backstory things used to be something I thought a lot about as an actor. I'm like, how did this person grow up, or where are they from? And I think more about, in clouding stuff, just how does this person move, and also where are their sensitive points. If you see BANGTAIL, even as the cowboy, he's like, takes himself as a really tough guy, but there are points where he feels sad, or he feels lonely. Right. Or he feels, angry about something. So I think I've never actually even thought about, who is this guy? I think because the cowboy already has such a lore, I'm like, he just is the baddest man in Texas. Like, that is his story. Yeah. I don't think about like what his relationship with his father is. That has no bearing on my understanding of him, because I just think it doesn't actually matter. What matters is that when he walks into a room, he thinks he's the toughest guy in the world and every woman wants to sleep with him. Yeah. To me, I'm like, I think more about kind of the energetic nature of the kind of clowny character that I'm going to play. Yeah. And then again, kind of what are their weak points? Like, if you press on this facade that he has, does he start to feel a little bit more vulnerable? Like, oh, he wants to have sex with a woman, but maybe he's actually a little bit shyer about his sexuality than he thinks that he is. Or maybe he feels a little bit insecure about his body. I don't know. Like, what are the things that he actually is a little bit fragile around? But I don't think so much about like, oh, how did he become the baddest man in Texas?
Right, yeah.
Or what was he like when he was at primary school? It just that is less, I guess, compelling to me. Because, I don't know, clowning is so immediate, right? It's like...
Yes.
The psychology, like, doesn't... This is something Philippe would always say, but he's like, we could write a book or we could just do it. And I think I really have moved away from trying to, like, psychoanalyze any person or any character.
Yeah.
This is something I even think is funny in, like, a lot of art that we consume now, is, like, every bad character has to have this like really traumatic backstory to justify why they are the way that they are.
Yeah,
or we need to understand why people are vulnerable in these ways. And I actually think a lot less about that. Like, of course, that's one thing that people can do and that's interesting, but I like just don't really think that the psychology is interesting or has bearing on my work necessarily about why. I don't really want to answer why, I want to answer what.
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. I want to say as well, it fascinates me. You seem to have come across a lot of archetypes already, which would have helped. Like, you've got Justin Silver, the kind of CEO character. And I love, I wanted to say earlier, but I don't want to interrupt your flow as I'm doing now. But the fact that you went to clown school and you worked with like a French clown named Philippe is
yeah. It's ridiculous. And then I like...
It's very on the nose.
It is so on the nose. And then when I was working on the dairy farm in Italy, it was like actually this guy who was 80 years old in the best, like in way better shape than I am in, named Attilio, who's this old Italian farmer who like cracks off a piece of bread for me and then puts a slice of ricotta on it and says, "This is God's gift to you." And there's a million flies all around me. Like, I just think, but this is what I do when these are the kinds of people that I get really inspired by, is people who just fulfill an archetype so well. And I think I do too. I mean, people always say I am so American. Right. During Buffon at Gaulier, you had to kind of impersonate somebody in the class, and people always chose me because I speak so crazy. I walk so crazy. My energy is so insane.
Yeah.
But I think that we latch on to characters in parody that are really exaggerated.
Yes.
So to me, that's such a gift. When I see someone like that, I'm like, oh my God, that's the show.
Yes, definitely. I'm interested as well. And so, like, you mentioned in the past, you've done, like, had a lot of fun playing characters who were, you know, taking the bastards, like Philippe said, like Mike. With BANGTAIL, do you like him? Or is this an outwardly, like, this is not a nice guy?
Oh, no, I think he's a total, like, loser in such a great way. Like, I think, also, I mean, I guess this is just kind of my philosophy, but I think you need to like whatever character you're playing.
Right.
I think that if there is this weird distance between me where I'm kind of prematurely judging the character that I'm playing, I think the audience can smell that and can see like, oh, well, she already has her mind made up about who this guy is and that he's kind of an asshole. And I think that actually, even in like really good parody and satire, I think that generosity does a lot to be more truthful, and then we can laugh more. Yes. I think that we can laugh more when like you're trying really hard to represent somebody. But yeah, so I think I never really play people that I think, even like Justin, who I absolutely adore, and he knows that I love him. I don't really agree with a lot of his ideas about business and capitalism. We are very, very different people. But I also am interested in him as a person and what makes him tick and why he acts the way that he does.
Right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that BANGTAIL is like a total weirdo. He's like this bad man who actually is like extremely sensitive and extremely lost in his life.
Yeah.
And is really, really seeking some sort of connection with somebody or some understanding of himself. So yeah, I think he pretends to be really cool and he's not cool at all. But yeah, I think he's a good guy.
That's great. I think that's really interesting as well to get across. I mean, you mentioned you do have like occasional lines.
Yeah. No, it's I talk.
But really interesting, I think, to get across something that layered mostly through physicality. I mean, like you said, you went to school for it, so I assume you have a lot of it trained into you.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how much of it is instinctual? The stuff of like, oh, I'm walking over here, but internally I'm worried that people are gonna think I don't look strong enough, so I'm gonna put on an air of like. When you're doing all of that, is that just innate now, or is that something you still have to kind of train as you do it?
I think that I really approach things from kind of an outside in mentality. So I'm not really trying to think about like in my mind, I am BANGTAIL and what is BANGTAIL psychology right now?
Right.
I'm like, okay, I need to walk as a cowboy and I need to be as Lil, but also informed by this person that I'm playing.
Yeah.
Aware and open to the stimulus that is in the room. And I know that I have these lines to say and I know that I have these things, but I think I don't walk around thinking to myself, these are the thoughts that BANGTAIL must think.
Right.
Like,
yes.
we know that it's a joke. I also think because all of clowning is also kind of inviting the audience in to knowing that this is something like a show that I'm putting on for you.
Yes, right.
So this is not method acting where I am for a second even believing that I am this guy. I'm making a choice and I'm defending that choice, but that is me as the clown defending that instead of kind of trying to separate myself and fully become this cowboy, because I'm not really. I'm just me as a clown on stage dressing up as this cowboy and putting on this show, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think that's interesting. I mean, most of the guests I've had on the show have talked about different interpretations of like comedic personas, and obviously it varies a lot, especially like, you know, as stand-up has got a very different concept to that to someone doing clowning or someone doing sketch. I find it interesting that you're trying to figure out how to word this exactly, but just playing the character, but also and the audience is like invited, like they know that you are Lil Wenker, the performer.
Yeah.
How much does that change between characters, do you think? Is there a big shift in your persona between, like, I don't know, Mike and the cowboy? Or is it the whole time, are you still kind of Lil Wenker, the clown in a costume?
Yeah, I guess this is a really good question. I mean, I think that the way that the character informs maybe the way that I improvise and definitely the way that I move my body. But I think that under it all, I have a sense of humor as a person and I have a sense of fun and mischief as a person that I think is traceable across that. Like, I think the thing about clowning is you're relying so much on your impulse. And that is my impulse, me as Lil, not the impulse of the cowboy. And of course, like when it's a cowboy, I'm going to be colored by the world of that and make choices that make sense within that world. But I think, like, I am such a little shit. I'm such a little, like, I was always the troublemaker when I was growing up and always loved to stir the pot and always loved to, like, if there's a button that I'm not supposed to press, I have to press it. And I think that kind of, like, mischievous impulse is going to be with me no matter if I'm Justin Silver or if I'm BANGTAIL or if I'm whatever character or clown show I'm next. I think that there's, like, this kind of just natural impulse as me. It's like, they always say this in clown school, but they're like, you need to find your fun.
Right.
And that's super individual from person to person. Like, if we were to go on stage, you would have a really different sense of what is fun and compelling to you that I would. But it's a personal thing. And I think it's informed, but not dictated by the person you're playing necessarily.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. What's your experience been like in general then with, she talked about this move through the work in progress arc of it and become more improvised and things. Generally, what has kind of audience reaction been like to it? Like, do you tend to get, trying to figure out how to word this. Again, like you were saying in the US, where audiences are generally more receptive to specific things like stand-up. Have you ever had that kind of moment of getting the wrong audience into the show? Like, people are there thinking, oh, it's a comedy, I'll go watch someone do like, they're not really paying attention to what it is.
Yeah.
Have you had that kind of experience of, like, the wrong audience?
Oh, definitely. Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's things like wrong audience, wrong space. I've played in spaces that are far too big for an intimate clown show. And there's just is, like, a lot of adjusting on my part that I have to do, and know that some of the beats are going to feel less clear than they would if it was in a space that's more apt for clowning. I also ask quite a bit of interaction from the audience. Right. And I think a lot of the work in progress stuff and a lot of gigging has been figuring out how to find the right people to play with. And even, I mean, it's like it's a process of consent, right? Like in anything, where even if somebody feels okay with something, maybe later in the show they don't want to interact again, and figuring out, okay, then how do I adjust from there?
Right.
How do I take this tactic and change it completely? So it has definitely been, I've been lucky in that most of my shows, knock on wood, literally knock on wood, have been really fun, and audiences have been super energized and super generous and super willing to perform or I guess interact with the performance. But there's definitely, been audiences or people or spaces that are not as conducive to this kind of, I don't want to say risky, because it's like, it's not risky, but it's definitely like, it asks a lot. I like get partially naked in the show. I do like simulated sex with an audience member.
Oh, wow.
I mean, there are things that just like, it's a very completely no contact. It's very like, we build a lot of like explicit consent into the show. Yeah. But like, there are things that are tricky. And so just figuring out like, how do we make this completely comfortable for everyone has been just a full process of trial and error. And there's been a lot of error in the making of it. Yeah,
definitely. I can imagine. I mean, I've never done anything at that level with that much audience participation, really, and that I can relate to the trial and error stuff. So I can imagine. I mean, you said you didn't want to call it risky, but I definitely would. Like,
it is.
But how are you feeling then about? So I think you've performed at Fringe before with other shows.
Yeah, so I performed the Crap Ballet before, and then I've teched for somebody and flyered. So this is the first time, I mean, it's my first solo show, as you know, but it's my first ever full Fringe run too.
Right. Wow. So for the full month.
Yeah, July 31st to August 25th. So it's going to be a big stretch.
Wow, brilliant. How are you feeling about that in terms of, do you have like big expectations of how it will go? Or is it kind of more like, how predictable do you think it is?
Oh gosh, I think probably not predictable at all. I think it's really one of those things where, because there's 3,000 shows at the festival and so many brilliant people, things are going to go well and they're going to go less well than you want. Oh, yeah. And it depends day to day. And you just really can't predict these sorts of things. But I always like to think that I can't predict what's going to happen, but I can control the amount of work and time and attention I put into something. So, I mean, so much has gone into this show, and I would say I have no expectations, because I think it's just a funny thing to, I guess, like expect a reaction from somebody when you're making a piece of art, or like expect a certain level of like notoriety. I'm like, I don't really think I should expect anything without being presumptuous, but I think I am hopeful that it receives interesting feedback, that people are compelled by it, and people see something that resonates with them, or feels new, or feels risky in an exciting way on stage. So I feel hopeful that there's going to be people excited about the show and curious to see more. But I think, honestly, I have no expectation without trying to sound too self-deprecating. I just think...
Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah, you just don't know.
I think the day I speak to a performer or a comedian where they go, it's all set, it's going to go great, it's going to...
No, yeah. I mean, give me their number. I need their confidence.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I start feeling rubbed the wrong way. I don't know.
Yeah, right? I'm like, I don't know, kind of get off your pedestal.
But yes, okay, brilliant. So, very excited for that. I think we're coming towards the end now. And before that, so for like a little sample of your work, you sent me a couple of things in the email, but again, if there's something specific you have in mind, I think you said a video trailer for your cowboy show and a piece you used to do Pinocchio jugs, which I thought was brilliant.
Thank you.
I thought that was just so good. Unfortunately, from what I remember, I don't think it would work. Oh yeah, it's like silent, isn't it? So I don't think it would work as part of the podcast.
Yeah, it is silent.
Which is a real shame, because that is so... I wish I had the chance to talk about it really, because it was just very like, I don't know, it was hilarious, but it also had this real like pathos to it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's going to a film festival in Chicago in a few weeks, which is really exciting. Yeah, no, I love that. Was like it's the first short film I've ever made, but I just absolutely loved it. So I'm glad that you watched it.
That's great. And yeah, I can link to that in the show notes. The link to the piece used to do.
Oh, that one is also silent. Wait, do you want something because I actually have a reel that they just made, this video team just made.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, that would be perfect.
Yeah, it's from BANGTAIL.
Okay, great. Yeah, do you want to
this part where I ask everyone in the audience to try to shoot me, and then I just like, they're like mine bullets and I dodge them all. And then I give someone a machine gun. It's very, very stupid, but I think it's so, great. And I do a lot of kids gigs, and the kids also have a really fun time doing that, which is very
that's adorable.
Sweet.
Yeah. Do you...
Okay, I'm sending that.
I was going to ask you a really stupid question, because I was going to say, do you change the show at all for kids? And then I remembered that I've kind of forgot about...
Simulated sex. Yeah, it's a lot more animal sounds and a lot less of simulated sex. In fact, for the record, no simulated sex. I would like to say 0 simulated sex when it's the children's show.
That's the Lil Wenker guarantee.
That is my 100% guarantee.
But yeah, great. Okay, so here comes that.
I see we got some troublemakers in the saloon tonight. Some people looking for a fight. But let me tell you one thing, I can't get got. But on the count of 3, try and get me. 1, 2, 3, shoot! Lady, come out, shoot! You machine gun. Catch. 3, 2, 1, shoot! Bang, bang, bang! Yeah, you're right. Me? Not a scratch.
And that's happened. And yeah, okay, so would you like to, obviously we've been talking about, but like specific plugs you'd like to do for BANGTAIL or for anything else?
Yeah, so we have a date at Soho, which is so exciting.
Oh, wow.
July 12th as part of the London Clown Festival. And then July 13th, we have our very final London preview at Seven Dials Playhouse. And they're also co-producing the show, which is exciting. And then I go to the Creatures Comedy Festival in Manchester on the 25th. But on the 20th, so 5 days before that, I go to the Nostock Festival, the last ever Nostock Festival, which happens to be saloon themed.
Oh, no way.
So it's perfect. I know, they were like, they emailed me and I had never heard of it before, but they were like, we heard that you're a cowboy and we need you to come and do the festival.
That's fantastic.
I was like, great. Yeah. And then, yeah, that's it for BANGTAIL. I'm also competing in the finals of a comedy bingo calling competition.
Okay.
July 7th. If I win, I get 1,000 pounds.
Oh my God.
You all should come to that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's great. It's so fun.
Comedy bingo calling.
Yes, every year, this place called Dabber's Bingo has a bunch of comedians compete to see who can call bingo best. And now it's been like really, really famous people have competed in it. And like they have British Comedy Guide come and all these agents. It's a little bit crazy and so fun. And so, yeah, I'm in the finals of that, which I don't even know how I got there to begin with, but I'm happy for it. Yeah, and then I start performing it in Edinburgh on the 31st of July. So catch it if you can. I would really appreciate to see anyone there.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll drop links to that in the show notes. All right, great. Yeah, with that, I've been Patrick. My guest has been Lil Wenker. In fact, I don't think you actually have said your own name in this one, but I think it does sound best in your accent because that's when it actually...
Yes, I can say it. I've been starting to introduce my pitch as, hi, my real name is Lil Wenker. And then people are like, okay, they know that it's not a bit. Or I still think they are skeptical, but it's at least they have a bit of a clue.
That's definitely true. The first time I emailed you, I embarrassed myself a little bit by going, hey, Lil Wenker,
Yeah,
sorry I
you
couldn't
did.
find your real name anywhere.
Couldn't find your real name. It happens literally all the time. I just put it in my Instagram bio where they're like, her real name from a recent review. So hopefully people can catch on.
I mean, it's great branding for a clown. But yeah, brilliant.
I was born for this job.
Brilliant. Okay, yeah. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you very much to everyone for listening. And yeah, see you guys next week. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of the show. You can find the show on Instagram at NeversFunny. All one word, all lowercase, baby. The music for the intro and outro is There It Is by Kevin MacLeod, brackets at Comtech.com. I pronounced MacLeod right that time, actually. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0. Licensed Criticon.org licenses /by/4.0. The guest next episode will be, I forgot. I think, oh yeah, it's going to be Louis Blomfield from the News Review. See you then.